Hey guys, this is going to be your first reading video for the week of February the 8th. If you will turn in your reading booklets to page 12, today we're going to be looking at a story called A Foxy Garden. On this story, we have been talking about different kinds of folk tales this week and last week. Remember that we said that a folk tale is a story that was told long ago and it was passed down from generation to generation by word of mouth. Most of the time, the original author of the story is not known because it has changed many times as it's been told. And different cultures around the world have different versions of different kinds of stories that might have similarities, but might also have some differences. We also learned that a folk tale usually tells how or why something came to be, tries to explain something, or teach us something. Most of the time, the characters are animals and they act like humans, and they, most of the time, have magic or something that is not real. So we know that the story is a fiction story. In this story, this is called A Foxy Garden. I'm looking at the pictures and I noticed that there is a bear and it looks like a mouse or not a mouse, a squirrel and a rabbit. And I can see the expression on the bear's face, which lets me to know that this story is probably going to be fiction. It looks like the bear is trying to keep something from the smaller animals. Maybe he is hiding something or he's angry if they're trying to take it away. Over here, I see the bear is thinking about something. See the thinking bubble? He's thinking about carrots. And look at the fox. He's kind of grinning, kind of sly grin. Sly means mischievous or he's up to something. It looks like he's kind of maybe trying to talk the bear into something. I also notice when I look up at the top of the story that it says trickster tale. So from reading that, I know that this is going to be a tale, which is a kind of story, but it's a trickster tale. So a trickster is someone that tries to trick someone into something or deceive someone. So in this story, we're going to be learning about these characters and we're going to see who gets tricked. Now, this week, as we think about our story, we're also going to be making connections. Remember that when we make connections, we're thinking about how the story relates to us. Maybe there is something in the story that we can make a connection with. Something happens in the story that maybe has happened to us. Or maybe the story reminds us of something that has happened before to us. Maybe the story reminds us of another story that we've read with other characters. Maybe the same thing happened. So we can make a connection with ourselves and our own experiences. We can make a connection between this story and another story. And we can also make a connection with this story and the world. So something that maybe we know of that's happened to someone else, or something that maybe we've heard of in the world before, but we've not personally experienced it. So it's always important to make a connection before we read, during reading, and after our reading. That helps us to better understand the story. So before I read, I'm thinking about the characters and I'm thinking about a trickster tale and I'm thinking of a time that I was tricked. And I'm thinking about how that made me feel. And so when I think about being tricked into doing something as a child, it made me feel like I had been outsmarted. And so I didn't feel very good about that. It made me want to try harder next time to not be tricked. So I was trying to think of other things I could do to outsmart the other person. So as we think about that, I want you to think about maybe what our characters might do as we read the story. It also helps me to think about the decisions that they might make. So let's see who is the trickster and who is getting tricked. And let's read this story together. A Foxy Garden. It says, one day, Bear found some ripe blueberry bushes by the creek. When Squirrel and Rabbit wanted some berries, Bear got angry. Look at that expression on his face. I can tell he's not happy. So that helps me to understand what's happening in the story by looking at the picture. Hey, growled Bear, those are my blueberries. Scram, or else. Squirrel and Rabbit ran away and told their wise friend Fox what happened. Bear is being selfish, said Fox. We'll have to do something about that. Oh, sounds like to me they're going to make up a plan. Here's the wise fox. Looks like he's talking him into something, doesn't it? Later, Fox went to Bear and said, I'm going to plant a garden with delicious vegetables. Want to help me? What's in it for me? Asked Bear. Well, we'll share, of course, said Fox. You can have everything that grows above the ground, and I will get everything that grows below the ground. Bear laughed. You'll eat stuff covered with dirt? Yuck! I'll take that deal. Let's grow carrots, suggested Fox. All right, let's stop right here. I want us to think about what's happening so far. Because Bear was being stingy with the fruit, wasn't sharing, these other characters decided they would go and talk to Fox about a plan on how to get back at him. So they've come up with a plan to trick the bear. And it says the fox goes to Bear and talks about planting a garden. And he asks for help. So they decide to split it up. You can have everything that grows above the ground, and I will get everything that grows below the ground. I want you to go ahead and think about that for a minute. What are you thinking about this plan? What are you thinking about Bear's answer? You'll eat stuff covered in dirt? Yuck. I will take that deal. What are you thinking about this plan that they've got? Well, I'm thinking it doesn't sound like a very good plan for Bear. This story reminds me of the story Tops and Bottoms. Has anybody ever read that story? There is a video on Google Classroom this week. If you will get on there and listen to that story, Tops and Bottoms, it's similar to this story. The characters in the story agree that one of the characters will eat what's on the top that they planted in the garden, and the other characters will eat what grows below the ground. So that's the tops and the bottoms. And one of the characters gets tricked. And so when you read that story, it kind of reminds us of this story because these characters are tricking Bear and they're agreeing to grow this garden together. Now, what do we know about vegetables and how they grow? Some vegetables grow under the ground. Carrots, radishes, they grow below the ground. The only part that sticks up above the ground is the green stalk or the green leaves. So when carrots are growing, you can't even really tell what's there until you get ready to pick them. And then you pull them out of the dirt. And the part that you actually eat of the carrot is the root because it's the part that grows under the ground. So some of our vegetables, we eat the root. And we don't really eat the stem, okay? So this part would be the bottom because that's the part that grows under the ground. We have lots of vegetables that grow that way. Potatoes, radishes, onions, turnips, carrots, they all grow under the ground. Now, On the other hand, we have some vegetables that grow above the ground. So like green beans and peas, they grow on a bush and they grow hanging off. Pumpkins, squash, cantaloupes, which cantaloupe is a fruit, but those things grow on a vine and they grow above the ground. So let's think about this deal that they've made. If Fox says the bear can have everything that grows above the ground, and the fox will get everything that grows below the ground. He suggests them to grow carrots. What's going to happen to bear if they only grow carrots and bear only gets what's on the top? Sounds like he's only going to get the stem. And what's fox going to get? The good part, that's right, that's growing below the ground. Fox knows what he's doing. All right, so let's see what happens. Remember, we've just made a connection with another story, tops and bottoms. So when you read that story, you'll see the connection too, okay? All right, let's keep going. Bear thought for a moment, then he said, I love carrots. They're good raw or cooked. Let's go to work. When the carrots were ripe, Bear pulled them out of the ground. Fox grabbed the carrots and cut off the green tops and gave them to Bear. Fox kept the orange roots for himself. Hey, said Bear, the green tops are not good to eat. I want the orange part. Ah, said Fox, the orange part is the root. It grows below the ground. Remember the deal? You get everything that grows above the ground. Uh-oh, now he's thinking about it. Turn the page 14. Bear cried out, then I want to plant a new crop. And this time I get what grows below the ground, and you get what grows above. Okay, said Fox. How about celery? Bear agreed. And when the celery was ripe, he pulled it up. Fox cut off the thick stems that grew above the ground, crispy and fresh. Crispy and refreshing, he said as he munched on a stem, handing Bear the celery roots that grew below the ground. Ugh, said Bear, biting into a bitter root. Not wanting to get tricked again, he said, let's plant another garden. I will get the roots and the stems. Look what's happened. Fox changed what they planted. They swapped. Bear realized he got tricked. So he swapped and he said, I don't want what grows below the ground. This time I want what grows, he said, I don't want what grows above the ground. This time I want what grows below the ground. I want the root. So Fox was smarter than Bear, wasn't he? He changed what they planted so that he would get the good part again. This time they planted celery. Well, the good part of celery is on top. What grows on the bottom is the nasty part. That's the root. And it wasn't any good to eat. So Bear has gotten tricked again. All right. Now they're going to plant something else. He is tired of it. He wants the roots and the stems. Okay? So Fox said, how about something that makes a good salad, like healthful lettuce? Bear thought about it, and he agreed. When it was grown, Bear picked armfuls of lettuce. It's all mine, he cried. Not so fast, said Fox. You said you would get the roots and the stems. What you're holding are the leaves of the lettuce. As we agreed, those belong to me. Uh-oh, he got tricked again. Unfair, yelled Bear. And now I'm hungry for lettuce and carrots and celery. What a good idea, Bear, said Fox. I will make a salad and I will invite Squirrel and Rabbit to a picnic. Bear stormed off. He was angry, But soon sadness pushed aside anger. Bear felt left out. He picked some berries and went to the picnic. I was wrong not to share the berries, said Bear when he found the others. Why, thank you, Bear, said Squirrel. They will make a yummy dessert. And since you're sharing, said Fox, please join the picnic. Oh, they let him share at the end. Now, in this story, we learned how Bear was outsmarted by Fox. He was tricked several times about the things they were growing in the garden. If Bear had have only thought ahead, he might not have gotten tricked. This story reminded me of a time when I was tricked when I was little and how that made me feel. And I acted just like the bear. I tried to outsmart and think of other things to avoid getting tricked again. But, sometimes we just get tricked into things without really thinking about it. And I kind of felt like the bear. I was angry when I got tricked. It didn't make me feel too good. So I made a connection with Bear about how I felt. I also made a connection with this story and another story I had read, Tops and Bottoms. It's also about planting a garden. And it's also about animals that get tricked into eating the root or the stem, and they're treated unfairly. So that made me think of that story when I read this story. It is always good for us to make a connection when we read. Making a connection helps us to understand the story. It helps us to relate to the characters, but it also helps us to understand the characters better and helps us to predict what's going to happen next. In this story, Bear learned a lesson. He actually went back and apologized, didn't he? Remember that a folk tale usually teaches us something or it explains something. In this story, Bear learned a lesson that it's important to share. Remember, he got tricked because he was being selfish with his berries on the beginning. In the end, Bear learned that it's important to share, and he ended up sharing his berries with the animals at the picnic, and they shared the vegetables with him. So he did get to eat what came out of the garden after all. Good for Bear. Good for these animals for sharing. So in this story, we talked about making connections. It's important to make connections when we read. We're going to keep learning more this week as we practice making connections and learning about different kinds of tales. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to get on Google Classroom and listen to the story, Tops and Bottoms, and see if you can make a connection between it and this story like I did. See ya. Bye.